Alright.
Alright.
Alright, hello everyone. Welcome to the first episode of the TuckedInPodcast. I'm your co-host Romeo.
And I'm Aran.
And today we're gonna... What are we gonna do today?
Don't know. Let's see.
Alright.
This is the introduction.
Yeah, so today we're gonna... First of all, some of you might know Aran from his YouTube channel, which we'll put a link in the description. What's it called?
Just my name, bro.
Aran.
Aran Ismail.
Actually, I wanted to start with that, to be honest. I wanted to start with sort of, what would you say is like the main theme with your channel?
Yeah, my channel is basically a collection of the things that I do to improve my life, right?
Right.
And all the things and mostly about the mind. Like there's loads of areas of life, but it's always just focused on my mind. Like that's what I keep the channel on. But I mean, maybe in the future I'll branch out to other areas. Yeah, we'll see though.
And so, like, what would you say is like, give me like 3 key like messages that you feel that you try to get out of your space?
I mean, I can tell you the most important things.
Yeah, go on.
But I wouldn't say there's... Actually, no, I think it's... maybe I do have it, actually. Work hard.
Alright.
Why are you laughing?
I'm not laughing, bro.
You're actually laughing.
Yeah?
No, wait. It was like, work hard.
But why should we work hard?
Why should we work hard? Because if you don't work hard, I'm going to beat your ass, boy.
No. I think Romeo's making a great point here because society, I feel like it doesn't reward hard work sometimes. And
we've got our very own Jamie as well.
Yeah, our producer. I'll just try it whenever I feel
but
like.
not the...
We've got God behind the camera, speaking down from the heavens. No, but I think honestly, I think something that I've actually thought about myself. Like recently, I've kind of been thinking about like my own personal development. Like, am I being as productive as I can be? And I think like certainly like at the moment, we've got a lot of work going on. And I thought like what kind of things can I do to be more productive? Like, is it... I know I've watched some of your videos and you kind of talk about like opening your mind to sort of be as sort of useful as like, as in, because you talk about like your breathing exercises, and that kind of stuff. Like, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, with being productive though, it's complicated because there's just so many things going on. One of the main things is probably having a reason to do anything.
Right.
Because like, why are you being productive?
Yeah, exactly.
What's actually the reason?
Exactly. Yeah.
And the issue is if you don't really have a good reason, then you're just not going to be able to do anything, right? So I'd say get on that first. Like, it's also complicated because the more you spiritually explore and like do all of these things, you're just going to lose and regain your purpose many, many times. And to be honest, one of the biggest mistakes I made was not really getting locked down on my purpose like earlier. Because you can always reiterate, but I couldn't overcome this thought of, purpose is just cope and whatever. So I realized I was just trundling along somehow for years with no reason to live. Just nothing. You ever seen like John Wick 4? When the guy says, there's 3 types of men: people who have something to kill for, people who have something to live for, people who have something to die for.
Yeah.
And he says John Wick is none of those, and that's just how I felt for years. Like, I actually had no reason.
No, I agree with you. This is something I felt as well.
But then maybe it was the spiritual exploration.
Yeah.
Maybe I just grew to a point where I finally sort of unlocked... Yeah, maybe unlocking things is a good way to think about it.
Right, okay.
You can just unlock new things if you just work hard and smart. That's another actual important point. Like, hard and smart working. Because most people struggle with both, but they struggle extra with smart working. Because it's not good enough to just grind the same thing. You need to think meta. So, for example, you say, how do I be more productive in my work, whatever, revising? But then you need to look even higher level, right?
Yeah.
Why am I not productive? And then you think about purpose in your mind, and then you just you have to look at all the factors together that influence your life. It's not just it's not just one thing. You really have to think in systems.
Interesting. So it's about kind of compartmentalizing the work that you have to do in a way that that makes some sense to your overall purpose going forward. Like so for example, like when you study now, you kind of you feel more connected with that studying. You feel that that's some sort of going to further yourself. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, when you do an activity like studying, you have to like again. It's like, how does this fit into my life? Why am I doing it?
Yeah,
right. So, for example, with me for studying, in A levels, I didn't really enjoy them.
Right. Yeah.
But I knew I have to do this because I want to get into uni, and clearly it was a really good decision to revise and work hard, because it was boring and it sucked. But I knew I was going to meet people like you and you, like We're here now, right? If I hadn't studied, I wouldn't have been here.
Yeah.
And going to uni, just the whole experience, like I knew I wanted that, so that's why I worked hard then. Now why do I work hard? Because I want to stay in uni. Also, there are things about my degree specifically which I enjoy, like having an understanding of the human body, how it works, improving my understanding of the mind. Also, it helps with learning how to learn, because the skills that I get from learning how to do revision, right, they can apply to the rest of my life. And so, yeah, that's pretty much why I do what I do.
That's fair. I mean, I think I've experienced, like, certainly in A levels and when I was before university, I feel like I was working almost mindlessly. Like, I'd be doing these tasks and I wouldn't really be thinking about sort of the more overarching, like, the perspective on whether or not what does work actually mean to me. And I think now I wouldn't say I'm at, like, that's why I kind of admire you, because I think you've kind of reached a sense where you really kind of understand what you're doing, and I think you found like a good purpose there. And I think I'm still trying to find that, like, still trying to find whether or not, like, I still find it difficult to study. Sometimes I feel like, well, I don't know why I'm doing this.
No.
I think a lot of stuff as well with like, I find sometimes with some of the stuff we study, man, it gives me some existential crisis. Like, I'm like this is us. Like even anatomy, I think when
oh my god, anatomy.
Yeah,
finding all the bodies.
Yeah, it's like, this is us. Like, that's just, it blows my mind. It almost, it's almost kind of like scary to me in a way. Like, in a way where it's like, I find it difficult to like, I haven't been to anatomy in a while, and I find it difficult to kind of approach that, like, I remember when I was a kid, like, I used to be really interested in sort of like the stars and planets and all that kind of thing. And I always used to kind of be scared of the like the sort of the sheer size of all this stuff, the grandeur of everything that's around us. And I think it's kind of the same with the human body as well. Like, even though it's not like necessarily like physically big, it's like it's
very, very complicated,
right? And that can be quite, I don't know, that can be kind of intimidating. So I don't know. I feel like I remember I was studying. I'm like today I was doing some stuff on the eye and like the different muscles and just the way the skull is structured, and it's amazing to me how that happens. We start from a couple of cells, and then I don't know. I find it quite fascinating, to be honest. But I'm still trying to find myself but this actually brings me to, like, kind of one of my main points I wanted to talk about, which was sort of that. So obviously, like, currently we're experiencing a big sort of political shift in the world, right? But we're also experiencing quite a big, at least us, we're experiencing a big shift, like, in ourselves. Like, we're both gonna be 20 next year, and I think that's
getting old.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, it's, there's by that point, there's no I guess you've really sort of passed your childhood. Like, you really there's a lot of responsibility. I don't know. It's a different way of approaching life. Like, I don't know. It's kind of intimidating to me. Like, how do you feel about, like, okay, in what, like, how many months time? A couple of months.
Turn 20.
Yeah. How do you feel about that?
Can't even do maths. Hang on.
Like,
7
months time. You still got time in it.
Yeah, I'm still a kid for another 7
man,
months.
I've only got like 3 months. It's mental to me.
But for me, it just excites me.
That's
kind of strange, but I don't feel scared of. I feel like more what I do and what we do is even more necessary now than it's ever been.
Right.
right? And so all the principles I talk about are just even more relevant. There's more opportunity than ever to get things done.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that makes sense. I mean, I don't know. I feel like when you're so with me, like I think like this is a bad habit that I think I used to have.
Yeah.
Whereas I would always kind of attach, like I wouldn't think positively about things, you know, like whether it be the past or the future. I'd always kind of have this sort of negative, pessimistic outlook, like, oh, I could have done this better, or I'm not, you know, will I be able to do this? Like, okay, I'm gonna be 20. Like, my first, like, this is bad for me, but my first kind of thought is, oh, you know, like, am I gonna be able to handle it? Will I, you know, be 20? Like, will I actually look 20? You know, will I act my age? You know, how do I actually go about that? But I think, you know, that's something I've been trying to work on. I don't know, is like being more positive, you know, or like this is something I know I've watched some video where it's like affirmations, right? Like you affirm certain beliefs.
That's quite an interesting one, because you're reprogramming your mind. So you want to just hammer the same thought continuously over and over again, and then slowly, but very slowly, you can actually just change how you think. And it's not the whole thing, right? It's not the whole picture of your mind and your life, but it's a good, important habit to do.
And that so if you kind of affirm positive thoughts, eventually like your reality is positive. What do you think?
I don't think it's that simple.
It's not that
Unfortunately,
simple.
no. There's too much. It's just too complicated.
Yeah.
Like the mind. Like there's literally so many things going on. Like it's not just the mind. It's also a spiritual form of growth, which is just, I think, just not even related to your mind. But the mind is more of a physical, at least conceptual object.
Right.
So there's too much interplay between all of these things. But like affirmations are important, but it's not going to get you there by itself. And that's actually back to being strategic, right? Working hard and working smart. You need to think sort of, what's everything I need to do, right? This habit, that task, you know, this thing, work on my motivation, work on my purpose, you know, all these things interplay. And the more you think, and then you think logically, okay, which task do I need to do? Which habit do I need to keep trying? This doesn't work. Okay, let's do some research, some reading, review my old notes. Let's go back. Let's contemplate a little bit. Let's go try this thing for a week. Let's journal. Let's do like a pager, track our emotions. That's how I do things. That's actually how to be strategic.
Right. So it's about, affirmation is one thing, but it's about actually taking accountability and also like taking actions to actually make that reality the case.
Yeah, accountability, you said, right?
Yeah.
It's quite an important one, yeah. I feel like that's more of a fundamental thing, though. Because if you don't have accountability, but even that's kind of, it's so weird. It's like a meta thing. Like you're in the, like becoming accountable is a prerequisite for everything else, but it's also another task.
Right, but a lot of people aren't.
For a second.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I would say a lot of people aren't accountable.
Most people aren't accountable, at least in one area of their life.
Like, I feel like I could be more, I could be better in that way. I mean, I don't know. I think when you
He agrees.
Our producer agrees.
to drop some words. No, we'll get into that later.
We'll get into, okay, right. I mean, yeah, I'm just having a look at some of the. I just, you know, actually, this is probably relevant for the talk, but I got sent this message being like, "Hey, read this." You won't guess who it's from as well. You can't guess who it's from.
I even know who that brother is.
You know.
Or rather, who that person is.
Producer's reading right now. Seems like, is it like an automated message, or do you think?
I think it is just like a copy and paste. But
do you get it as well?
I think you should go.
You know, this is okay. So basically, I was given a message that whether or not I'd like to be an actor or acting experience.
Actor. That
I've always
sounds
wanted to be.
fun.
I've always wanted to be an actor. You know? Like in school,
Yeah.
I never. Oh, this is like one of my biggest regrets from school. I never had the balls to actually like audition for any of the school plays.
Did you have drama and stuff?
Yeah, we had like a couple of school plays here and there. We had like 2 or 3, and I never had the balls to
I
audition.
don't like that kind of thing though.
Yeah, I feel like
being
the
in drama.
culture's quite.
Like, oh, I could play such a good Joker. Like in a just that would be good.
You think you'd be a good Joker?
I think I'd be. People say I think because I can get into that frame of mind really quickly.
Go on, give us the voice.
Voice. It's not a voice. It's more like
Mindset.
Yeah, it's literally a mindset. Like, just being unstable, violent, upset. I can put myself in that frame.
I think because I would say you're quite a stable person. Like from what I know, but I think the most stable people are like almost very unstable, because I think to be stable you have to have like all aspects of like.
That's actually quite interesting.
Like I would say you're someone who has like quite an open mind, because you like kind of thought about various different mindsets.
Yeah, that's really true.
So I think like when you have all that depth of experience, you're like almost on that edge, and like you just need like it just takes like one. I don't know, like you can imagine like maybe you like tied everything together. It just takes like one snip of one of the strings and everything just comes. I don't know, maybe, but
I feel like it makes you stronger though.
Yeah.
The more you kind of wash out your mind continuously, the less vulnerable. It's like when people do like psychedelics and shit, right?
Yeah.
The people who get fucked on psychedelics are the people who have these really, really rigid worldviews, right? The people who have this like fixed, this is how the world works. They get fucked on psychedelics because they can't handle it. Their mind is literally being like, being sent through all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
But I think the people who are more open-minded, they generally will not struggle as much, and they can tolerate it because they know, they're great. Oh, open my mind, this, that. But yeah.
But I think because it's hard to know if you're open. Like I would have thought I was sort of.
But see, by asking that question, you are actually proving paradoxically that you are open-minded.
But I don't know. It's hard, because I think like from.
Would a closed-minded person ask themselves that?
Maybe, but then I feel like a lot of people are. I feel like open-minded is like a buzzword, right? Like I feel like a lot of people.
Yeah.
Open-minded
like empath.
Yeah, open-minded is like I have empathy. I'm willing to see other people's points of view. But then like a lot of people, I would say I'm guilty of this. Like we kind of live in our own echo chamber, like where it's sort of like our own ideas remain sort of constant for. Like I would say this is like whether it be political beliefs or whatever it is, like they kind of remain at least for me, they kind of remain constant. Like once I've made my mind up on something, I don't. Maybe it's like people don't have the, not confidence, but maybe maybe accountability to say, I'm wrong. I was wrong about this.
Yeah, most people hate admitting that.
Yeah, they hate that they're being wrong, and I think that I guess like we're all guilty of that in a way. But so being open minded is like being able to admit that this viewpoint requires developing, or this ideology requires like development.
Yeah, because to question the ideology you hold, you need open mindedness.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
But which open mindedness is basically just being able to accept that you're wrong. Essentially, I think.
Yeah. Like actually, that's a pretty good. Like,
because I think a lot of people just take what they're fed, and then just kind of it becomes gospel. It just becomes like a fact, right? But I think being open minded is being able to like critically analyze. I read this somewhere like 50% of people don't have critical thinking. Isn't that crazy?
You told me that like half of people don't have a voice in their head.
Yeah, this is mental to me. Like,
do you really think that's true?
Well, I mean, I saw the study, and then I saw a YouTube video which talks about it, and then I looked through the comments, and some of the comments they seemed genuine, being like, I don't have a voice in my head, I just talk to my friends, and they seemed like genuine, so I believe that.
I think it's not so much they don't have it, it's more that they're not conscious of A, the voice, and of B, the fact that the voice is not them.
Okay, that's interesting. So you'd say those are closed-minded people.
I'd say those people have a higher chance of being closed-minded.
Interesting. Now, that makes sense actually. Like, we don't like to not be in control, I think. So
yeah, we hate losing control. That's why existential crises fuck you over, because it's a lot of derealizing, depersonalizing. You don't feel like it's like you can become a ball of something, and you don't even know like who's controlling my body right now, who's doing anything. If you really get deep into this shit, you I've been there.
You have been there.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I feel like everyone we know probably has like a.
Yeah, we probably have just a generally open-minded friend group because people who are like each other stick together.
Yeah, that's true, right? I think. Also, I think people who like this is why I feel like the world is so divided. That's why I do believe it's like 50-50 critical thinking or like 50-50. I don't know. Like I feel like that's why because people are just so intolerant of other people's beliefs and like just so. It's not even that. Like I feel like this is the thing. Like for example, I don't know, like recent whatever political events. It's like what if everyone just sort of accepted what happened and then just kind of came together and just sort of supported whoever was in like even if you don't agree just as a way to actually have some sort of level of unity. I feel like everyone is so stuck in their own way that it's like
you mean like with the US elections?
yeah for example like okay 50% of people didn't vote for him right for Trump right and I understand that and I like and that's fair you know but then I think it's also like what if like even if there are other if Kamala won like it would be good if everybody could just come together and just say you know what we're gonna set aside our different this is what happened in the past like we're gonna set aside our differences and just be supportive and just spread positivity for whatever it is and then we'll try again in 4 years time like I don't know I feel like that would be a really good mindset for people to have but I think people like this is the open-minded closed-minded I think people are just very stuck in their own ways I think people are not able to I don't know they're not open-minded to different beliefs like they're not able to say oh you know what I was wrong about this or I don't know like I find that I was guilty of this as well to be honest but I don't know
I think people are more not closed-minded today but you said like in the past people agreed and got along right but I think today especially maybe in this past 50 years it's gone but also actually it's kind of cyclical because remember there was World War II and then that was like just the explosion but then after that it goes dormant and then everyone seems like we agree on everything and then the problems they start boiling up again and again and again and now I think we're just in that kind of 1930 I don't want World War II to happen again but I think we are in that unstable pre-war period. But also, I think specifically today, because people are more, this is what I think, that I don't really hear that much from anyone else, but people are very existentially unstable, right? So we don't have clear like belief systems where we're sort of like lost, we're kind of like derealizing a little bit, we're griping like, what's the truth, what do we believe? And that's happening more today. And that's causing people to go sometimes to kind of extreme or like they cling to some ideology and they have to take it to an extreme
to find some identity
to find a sense of this is the truth, this is my belonging, right? And if they don't have that then they're in trouble. And so that's I think playing into today's problems also technology, social media, all of these things
like you can't find a neutral person. I've never met a neutral person.
There is no such thing as a neutral
because you have to have some like otherwise you don't have identity or you don't
because taking the middle point of a political issue is still a point.
Right, yeah, like you have to I feel like everyone has to feel like they fit into some category. Like it's all about fitting in, I think. I don't know, that's what
I think that's just a general human desire.
Maybe, yeah, that's fair.
But
I feel like it's because I would say like what do you think has caused the sort of more like the greater divide recently? What do you think has caused that?
It's quite interesting. I mean, again, I already said the existential instability, right? But also, and I also said social media and all these things.
The social media.
I think I kind of already summarized it, but I don't know. That needs a lot of contemplating.
I think it is mostly the biggest factor in this, in my opinion, is social media and the algorithm, because the algorithm just drives you into an echo chamber with your own opinions and your own thoughts. So that's your whole identity. Like, even this is kind of a joke thing, but like especially on TikTok, people like this call, blah 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 call, like the just making everything its little community. Like even things that aren't necessary. Like people are they're craving identity, and that's why the algorithm's pushing them towards that. That's the number one driving factor. But the cyclical point, I agree with that as well. Like it's just it's the way life goes.
Yeah, but he's right. Like the the algorithm thing, right? Like that's really really true, because you know, as humans, our mind is designed to be relatively easy to manipulate. We don't want to think this, but our minds are quite easy to manipulate.
No, that's fair. Yeah.
And so, if you just feed someone the same opinion every day, and it's worse because now you can like videos. Oh, this video. Oh wow, this person was killed. This person, you know, you can see a lot of content really quickly. Sometimes violent content, right? Violent, gory, extreme kind of events, and you can just see so much of that. And that's how you know, it's actually impressive that we aren't more extreme. The fact that we can even sit here and think critically is in and of itself impressive, because you know, just the algorithm, we can be driven to such extremes so quickly, and all the system's doing is really just playing. That's all social media companies do. They're not doing anything on purpose harmful. They're just playing to what our emotions crave. And it's a shame, but the change has to come from within ourselves. Like things like junk food, right?
Yeah, who's at fault?
People buy junk food, right? Yeah, exactly. People buy junk food, so it's our own fault.
Yeah.
And when people's desires change, obviously I know the system's playing into that, and they're manipulating people, but ultimately the business can only be as corrupt as its customers, more or less.
That is a very fair point, but I think if we start going down that rabbit hole, it sort of glosses over the fact that it is the company's responsibility. I know they want to make profit, but it's their responsibility to look after the consumer as well. And if they're making products that are unhealthy on purpose because they know it's just going to hook people in, I know it is the customer's fault. You know, we need to weigh up both sides here. Both need to be taken accountable. Like, the company can't just do whatever they want, and the same goes with social media. They can't just use the algorithm because they know this is how they get the most users. They can't just feed into this toxic cycle just because at a certain point we have to think about the benefits of society versus the benefits of this one mega corporation. You know, obviously it is on the individual, but if the system is built against the individual, then you can't fault people for not being able to fight back.
But here's another point, right? Who makes the business?
An individual.
Yeah, exactly. See, it's like the people who make the businesses and form them, they're just made up of individuals. And so it's like, sometimes I was thinking about like dictators and kings and stuff, right? And I actually thought to myself, what if that person is just a sample of their society? Like, we say, oh, this dictator was really bad, or this king was really bad, and they were oppressing their people. But what if at the time of that society, in any society, that person was just being a sample of what any, on average, random person, sometimes maybe worse, sometimes better, but generally an average of what a normal person in that society would have done.
That is a very fair point. That is a fair point.
I mean, I think like it's sort of like you could imagine a phone as like a knife, right? And then you wouldn't give a knife to a baby, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, because fundamentally, like, a knife on the table is not dangerous to anybody, right? But it's about this. If someone doesn't know how to use it properly, then it can be dangerous. Does that make sense?
Nothing's dangerous if there's no you involved, because it's all about what's harmful to you.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, for example, like, okay, but you know, I can use a knife to make food, and it's not dangerous. But if I'm, I don't know, intoxicated and I'm not thinking properly, then it could become, like, I'm not using it properly, then it could be dangerous to me. I'm not thinking, and
You're reminding me of the scalpel in anatomy, and that is a fucking sharp weapon. Every fucking week, somebody cuts themselves.
What?
No, guess what? I'm the only person who's ever actually bled from this knife. But the other weeks, right, people have just cut their gloves and somehow they haven't cut into the skin, or they cut the nail or something. Like, some reason they haven't actually been cut except for the glove every single week. But the first week, it's so sharp, right?
Where did you get yourself?
It's like on my thumb. It's gone now, but
Well, that's like, what if you catch a disease?
it's the only thing you can really catch from cadavers is prion disease.
But that's bad.
That's like the worst.
Really
Yeah,
bad.
prion disease is awful. Sorry, I didn't elaborate properly. I'm scared as fuck of prion disease.
Yeah,
Prion disease is awful. I mean, like, in terms of pathogens and stuff, they're all dead because the formaldehyde, you know, the whole body is just flushed with formaldehyde. There's nothing surviving. But there might be some, like, staphylococcus here and there, but generally with pathogens you're fine, but yes, prion disease can fucking kill you.
But
and
prions aren't even.
it's awful.
Wait, but how common? What's the incidence rate for
Prion
prion disease
so
from cadaver from injuries?
I checked because I was quite interested.
Mhm.
I read about how they
Interesting,
work, and I also read the incidences in the epidemiology. And there have been 13 cases of medically acquired prion disease in the UK in the past decade. So
One every year.
And if we think about how many, when these would
no,
occur.
medically doesn't just mean dissect. You know, it could be like a medical procedure.
Okay.
Isn't it
Then
mainly
that increases?
Yeah.
Because if we put it right down to just academia, then that would be kind
Yeah,
of crazy. Because there's not that many people
terrible
doing dissections.
situation.
across the UK.
Isn't it mainly from the brain, right?
Yeah, nervous
That's what-
tissue.
Nervous tissue. Okay. So now it'd be quite difficult for us because aren't we dissecting the.
Brain, exactly, and I don't want to hold that stuff.
Yeah, I can't like that. That's a bit.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It's bad because it's really, really an amazing feat, right? It's a protein. Imagine you have all
It's not
this
even
prion
alive.
protein.
I know.
It's
Yeah.
just protein, right? And then there's a random mutation in this one protein that comes about, right? In an old person's brain as they grow older. And this mutated protein happens to have several important properties. And it has all of these properties, not just one. It can react as a catalyst to convert other proteins. B, when it converts other proteins, it has to convert it into itself, not like a third protein. C, it's infectious, so it spreads and it multiplies, and then all of these proteins, they keep turning into itself and they keep spreading and spreading. And D, it's resistant to proteases. So like you can't even break it down with, you have to use like bleach or like sodium hydroxide or something like powerful, right? And I think there was like another thing that it needed to be, but yeah, and the protein itself, the prion disease protein, also has to literally convert people, like it has to polymerize in your cells to kill them. And imagine this protein has to mutate on accident to do all 4 or 5 of those things at the same time. Isn't that a crazy coincidence? And it's just one protein. Like the fact that it converts
It's
other
not
proteins.
genetic disease, is it? No, it's like.
It's when people get old, they
Yeah.
just have random mutations in
Chances
proteins.
increase.
And
yeah.
one of these proteins, it converts others into itself. Like how clever is that?
I mean, it's scary.
It converts other proteins as like used by being a catalyst into itself. It's not even a disease. It's just there.
Yeah,
it's
not even
it's
living.
crazy
It's
to wrap your
latent.
head around. Because normally we sort of anthropomorphize pathogens, right? Oh, this bacteria attacks your cell. This virus enters your cell. But this is like just an object.
Do you think? This is gonna come on to the next topic.
Mm.
Do you think God intended that?
Oh, so we're getting onto religion. I think that the portrayal of God as a man is
Archaic.
I don't think God's a person.
You
I
he's like
think
an
God
entity?
exists. I think there's definitely a higher power, but I don't think God is a person.
Hmm.
Like I just don't think so. I've never really thought so.
So you don't like? Do you believe in like creation and stuff like that?
It doesn't matter because no matter how you were created, none of that actually pertains to God. So it doesn't. The answer is it doesn't matter. Like whether creation was like this or like that, it doesn't actually affect God.
So is it like? Because would you consider yourself like a religious person? Like do you pray to God and like so?
Sometimes.
So what would be like? Because I'm somebody who like for a long time I was kind of atheist, right? Like I was like, I don't know who God is. I don't have proof. Why should I pray to God? You know, like why should you pray to something that you can't fathom? Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. Because the reality is that most people think, even people who believe in God think they know God, but you can't because it's not intellectually understandable.
Right.
And so your question is right. You know, why would you pray to something you can't intellectually understand? And that's actually a hard thing to answer. I don't really.
Yeah. Because I mean, like for
I don't
example,
know.
like my issue was, okay, so if God is like sort of this entity that we can't, doesn't have a form, and I agree with that. But then, so then to me it feels wrong. Like, okay, we're putting like a face on God, like Jesus, or and I mean, Jesus existed or not. That's a different debate. But the idea of like kind of giving a form to God, is that not kind of, that's not necessarily true, right? And then so why are we praying to something that isn't true, but then maybe it's good to have something to fall back on? I don't know.
It's quite interesting, because I feel like, there's this is probably the biggest point of difference between Islam and Christianity.
Yeah.
It's like one of the key things, like if you see like Islamic art, right? It's just like LSD art. It's straight up. It's just LSD. Like, it's just tessellation. It's quite nice.
Yeah.
It looks quite good, but it's
cool. Yeah.
And there's also a lot of specific things in the Quran which are like, God, like, is like the first verse of the Quran is literally just like, God is the throne and everything above the throne. That's what it translates as into English. And that's actually quite an interesting one to read and think about. But the thing is, even Muslims generally, because you can't, like, it's impossible to imagine the unimaginable. That's even like basically probably, I think, what it says somewhere in the Quran. Like something like, there is this idea in Islam, you can't even imagine the unimaginable, right? But people do just inherently anthropomorphize and say, okay, God is like this person.
Right.
But
because
there's no...
you need to understand.
You need to understand, right?
But then that still doesn't... Like, here's the thing, because I feel like it's sort of... at what point... Okay, so... here's what... So my difficulty with... Like, at the moment, I would consider myself, like, maybe agnostic and, like, spiritual. And I think I try to sort of spread positivity. I feel like that's sort of what religion is about anyway. Like, there's a lot of moral lessons in a lot of the texts in terms of like how you should live your life, how you should treat people around you, right? But then when it comes to I just feel like it's sort of I find it difficult to, like, okay, people, so when you pray to God, right, like, and you kind of give thanks to God for creating you, but then I don't know, because I like we don't pray to people who fought in wars, for example, before us. I mean, technically they also are the reason we're here, right? I mean, you could argue God's the reason we're here, and you could also argue that people who fought in World War II, for example, are the reason we're here. You could argue your parents are the reason you're here. Like, do we pray to? Should we pray to these people? Like, should we keep these people in mind?
It's because the thing is, you can flip the logic, really.
Yeah.
You could say like, oh, but God created the things which created you, so you can kind of loop it back to God if you want.
But did God create? Let's say God created Adam and Eve. Then he didn't. Did he create us, or do you understand what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, but
we
then
weren't directly created by him.
It's complicated, because I know that even in Islam there's like this split between the idea of free will and predeterminism.
Right.
And the truth is that nobody's really sure, but personally I think it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day it's just an intellectualization again. Like, because again, if we go back to the idea that God is beyond your understanding and intellect,
right,
then all of this conversation is bullshit. Because this basically has nothing to do with God. Because it's within our intellectual capacity.
So you think, because like, for example, like, let's say I had kids, right? I'd be interested, I haven't decided yet, I guess. But I'd definitely be interested.
Well, you don't decide till you have some.
No, no, I mean, not about having kids. I mean, like, in terms of, I'd be interested in maybe showing my kids like a religious text as a way to...
Oh, right.
I feel like, both of you kind of grew up on religious texts, right? And so I think...
To be honest, not really for me.
Okay, you...
Surprisingly, no.
Okay, but...
very much so. I did, like, we used to do Bible study every night.
Right.
Pray morning, evening. I would go to church all the time, yeah. And
so I think that kind of gave you like a guideline and like a moral code and like a sort of like basis of like how you should live your... I'm not speaking for... Yeah. So that's like... I feel like that's quite maybe valuable to give to children. But you said, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't... That didn't happen. But I found that kind of like I felt that I kind of understood things later than other people who maybe had like a religious upbringing. Like I felt like when it came to sort of like I don't know like situations, even like playground level situations, it was kind of like I didn't really understand like what was maybe right or wrong, like at least socially, at least later. Like I understood it later than some of maybe the kids around me who were maybe brought up religiously. So I feel like maybe there's a benefit there that is interesting, but I don't know, maybe you feel something different.
I don't know, because for me, I was very existentially unstable. Honestly, in year 6, I was just thinking about like heaven
Right.
and how it's possible that like if you go to heaven, what if you live there for a million years? Like, will you get bored of heaven?
Right.
Will you become sad? I had so many existential. So right off the bat, pretty much, I was like questioning everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I reached a stage where I had to just go through the whole product, just questioning everything. And then eventually more and more information becomes apparent to you. But that's not the path that most people go through.
Right.
That's something very strange that I've done. But it's a risky one because you're kind of giving up all your belief and your entire perception of reality for the hope of gaining something back. But
so would you raise your kids as would you give them a religious upbringing?
it's actually really interesting. I don't know. Maybe.
Because would you say like is there are all people like capable of what you managed to do? I don't know. I don't think so. But how would you know?
It's just people are just different. You know,
Yeah.
everybody has different factors, causes, and then you go through everything and you just react differently. It would just be so hard to know.
Because I wonder, like, you know how there's like maybe this is like a wild thing I just thought about, but why like there's been an increase in sort of things like autism and other maybe like mental. I wouldn't say disability. I don't like that word. I think when it comes to, but like deviance, like deviation from the norm, right? And do you think that's in part because there's been like a huge increase in sort of like non-religious households? Like these kids don't really understand maybe how to like act socially potentially, because let's say okay, if you study the Bible, you study the Quran, you study the Torah or whatever. Like okay, there's a lot of like stories about this figure. You know, he helped this person and he forgave this person who did him wrong, and but then like when if you don't show that to kids, then maybe kids don't understand things like forgiveness, or kids don't understand how to be nice, like even being nice to your neighbor, like being nice to another kid on the playground. Like are we seeing like there's more just anger and animosity I think has increased? Is that because of that, do you think, or do you think that's just people in general?
There's a lot of factors, but that I think like existential instability and the sort of collapse of religion could actually be an important factor.
I think that's a
yeah, I agree as well. I think it's the existential instability, and then it causes an increase in individualism, so people just end up going about their life not really caring about the consequences of their actions, just living for themselves, and that's what causes this sort of deviance. And I think that's also been propagated by the rise of the internet as well, because our whole society is about, you know, driving like your own success no matter the cost to other people, and then in some people it'll result in a productive person, in other people it's deviance, violence, chaos, you know, a lot of these Machiavellian characteristics that you see people, you know, engage in criminal activities. Sorry, just my 2 cents.
No, but that makes sense. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I even I don't know. It's just interesting that I feel like we're living in like a period of time that is quite maybe just because we're in it, but if I feel like it's a quite a tumultuous period of time where people, like, a lot of things are changing. Like people, even the way we live is changing, I'd say. I don't know. Maybe that's just
it's because globalization, the internet, society, technology, and the spread of information, like what we're doing now.
Right.
The more information sources you have access to, the more you can become open-minded, the more you can question everything, and so your growth becomes faster, but it's at the cost that you're more unstable as well as a person.
Because like hearing your story about being raised religious, but then like sort of the wheels start turning in your head. If you receive all that
Yeah.
information before emotionally you're developed, then you kind of just you become lost. Like you said, you were lost for a long time, and that's why it's a bit of a sticky situation whether or not I would introduce religion to my children, because me, I sort of blindly, well, not blindly, I just followed what my mum said because I adore my mum, and whatever she said was right to me. So I was really deep into the Bible, always trying to read and learn more. And then as I grew up, I started to question more. But I think that was at the right time when I was, I had the proper framework in my head to ask these questions in a proper manner, and not just let my mind run free. And if I don't know, it's just it's all about what young children are exposed to, in a sense.
I mean, I don't know, like someone like for me, because I think because I'm like mixed, right? So my dad's Catholic, but he's not really like a practicing Catholic, and my mum's Hindu, but like again, she's not like necessarily like practicing in that sense. So I don't know. I always find it hard to kind of like find like an identity. Like I feel like that's why I always kind of I thought maybe I don't regret. I mean, I can't regret it, but I kind of was maybe almost envious of people like people who go to the mosque or the church, and there's like a group of people who are exactly like you can kind of relate with, and I feel like that might be that's a good experience.
It's a good experience, but I would say that if you depend on that as a source of community, you're always going to be limited in how you can think and to what extent you can critically think about the world.
A lot of people do depend on that, like I guess.
Yeah, especially older people.
Yeah, and the thing is that sort of engaging with faith in that manner is encouraged by the text, like in the Bible. The church is your home. So even though obviously it's problematic in my opinion, I agree, but
you think it's problematic?
But I think it's problematic to have your religion be your sole identity. Obviously, because like in Christianity, like God is meant to be your number one, and I understand that it's meant to be your number one priority. But then if you sort of let everything else fall to the wayside, then you can't truly engage with the world in a meaningful manner. That you can't open your mind up and truly allow yourself to see the world in all its glory and all these different aspects. And that's why, so I agree with you, Aran, essentially.
Yeah, it's an interesting one.
I don't know, I guess maybe I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Like my mum recently has been like, she showed me some like, because like Hinduism is quite like a different religion. Like I've been reading about it quite a lot recently, and it's not like, I feel like Christianity, Islam are quite similar religions. In a sense, maybe to
an extent.
Like in like a skeleton.
Okay. Compared to Hinduism, like the Abrahamic religions are a lot more similar. Even one could include Sikhism as well. In terms of like the framework, and then Hinduism, Buddhism. Like it's like two different schools of thought essentially.
Because Hinduism, like there's like a lot of like Hinduism is almost based on this sort of like, I don't know whether you could like mythical like reality of like I read I can't remember the name of the text, but it was about this just like thousands millions of years long war between sort of these like these brothers, and then there's like moral lessons in it as well, between these brothers, and then there's this idea that, so Hinduism has the three deities, right? Like you have Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, right? And but then like these deities kind of reincarnate like every sort of generation or every like period of time. No, it's probably longer than that. Like every period of time, and then these characters they reincarnate have like a very big presence in like the overall ongoings of that. So for example, so you have like the whole thing with Krishna, and who's like who marries this woman Sita, and then he has to fight against this demon called Ravana, but he's actually been around for a lot of time before, and he was actually initially like a sort of a good person who kind of reached a higher level of being and was able to learn about some of the powers that the gods had, and then eventually that kind of corrupted him. And there's like some good moral lesson there, I guess, like about power corrupting you. But then like it's not, and then as Krishna eventually defeats Ravana, and then peace is restored for only like a period of time, and then like another thing happens. There's like a war, and but I don't know, it's quite interesting. Like I think Hinduism is kind of based. It's not really like a religion that is. I mean, it's religion. Obviously, it's religion, but it's not based like the other religions where there's like a figure, and then there's like I don't know, Jesus has his various miracles, and then that kind of is like a way to depict the power of God on earth, and like how you know I don't know entirely, but I don't know, I found Hinduism quite interesting, like having read about it. I feel like it's almost it feels like a lot of it could have actually happened. I think, I don't know, like in terms of some of the stories, they feel more like history lessons. But I guess that's all religion. It's like history lessons, like this is what your ancestors did, this is what they did wrong, this is what they did right. But I always find it, I find it kind of, I don't know, annoying, but I find it a bit I guess like a lot of these people and like these texts, they have like these powers, right? You know, like they're able to like, why don't we have these powers? Is that just like a metaphor, or is it like actually true? You know,
that's one thing I always think about this. A lot of things you hear about, like with, you know, earlier you asked me about creation, and being created. A lot of that could all just be metaphorical, or sort of not meant to be interpreted literally.
But why wouldn't they just said it in like literal way? Like instead of so for example, like the idea that correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't what's the main character in the Quran? You know,
there's not really a main character, because it's basically a lot of stories of different eras and prophets and stuff.
It's like Muhammad, right?
But he was the one who wrote the Quran through the word of God.
So that's what I was wondering. So the idea that God spoke to him, right?
Yeah.
So, but okay, so you could maybe, so did God literally speak to him, or did he kind of just like sort of meditate and like come up with these ideas on his own? Like,
yeah,
I
think about that sometimes, to be honest, and you just don't know.
Like, okay, well,
that's just,
well, like even I don't know, like the idea of Jesus being resurrected, right? Okay, so did that actually happen, or if that's a metaphor, why didn't they just say it in the first place as the meaning of it?
Do you think it matters though? Whether it actually happened or it was a metaphor.
But I just wonder, like, why can't we resurrect? Like, what you know? I don't know. I find like even in like in Hinduism is probably the most rampant, where they have all these gods have all these powers, like he can make it rain, and he uses like lightning bolts, and this other guy has like 10 heads. And like there's some maybe metaphors like, okay, if he has 10 heads, maybe he has like 10, like his intellect is like tenfold. Okay, I could get that maybe, but then like there's some other stuff where it's like they go to the jungle and they start fighting like these demons, and this guy like shapeshifts, and it's like, okay, but where's the metaphor there? Like you know what I mean? Like that, did that actually happen? You know, and why are we not able to tap into that? I don't know. Maybe that's, I guess that's just stories, right? I don't know. But yeah, I mean, let me see what any other talking points.
Yeah, what do we have left?
We talked about.
Because I will take a shit soon.
Look, I needed to jazz soon as well.
Okay, I think, should we wrap it up then?
Yeah. Should we wrap it up?
Let's see how long
have we done? 54 minutes.
That's
good. Like,
yeah, that's fine.
So I guess we'll wrap it up then. So first of all,
yeah,
I just wanna let's actually have like a. I want to thank you for, if you're still watching, giving us this time, and then I want to thank our producer. Follow. We'll put you in the link in the description. And then do you want to say anything?
Not really, no.
I mean,
thanks for having me. Like,
thanks for having. Yeah,
good,
it's my house.
good, interesting conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, this mouse. Okay.
No, yeah, we should. Yeah, we should.
Oh, I hope the audio is fucking recorded.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Otherwise, it would.
That'd be so depressing.
That's actually so sad.
Maybe we'll edit this bit out.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just check that the audio recorded. Okay.
Oh.